Hello one and all, I am Pal of Games and welcome to a deck profile for the Shinras. I've been testing extensively with these this archetype as it is at the minute anyway, and this is the selection I've come up with, which I feel is the most consistent, the most, well, the one I like the most, to be honest. I've tried a load of different versions, and I've got a side here which is not the real side, it's just different cards you might want to tech in or change around, in my opinion, which you might prefer, or you know, go with your own choices obviously. But here's a few I just came up with myself. But let's go with the deck itself to begin with, and it's pretty box standard in terms of the monsters, with a few different interesting techs. But let's get straight on with it. So straight off the bat, we've got 3 Spirit Tree Regia. This is like the big boss monster of the deck, and your main goal is to bring him out. And it isn't too hard to do it with this deck, but as you'll see, you know, sometimes it's a little hard, you know, it just depends on your draw. I mean, all decks get bad hands, some just deal with it better than others. Moving on, I've got 2 Phoenix Cluster Amaryllis, and this card's a really nice card in terms of combining it with him to go into your level 8 plays, as well as, well, I should say rank 8 plays, shouldn't I? But it's also nice than just a little blocker which does 800 every time they try and pick it off. But yeah, you may say, oh, well, why don't I play 3 then? And I feel 2's great because it's just consistent enough for the deck. I feel 3, sometimes you can get a bit cloggy in your hand, and sometimes you won't have the opportunity to get rid of it from your hand, because with the exception of Shinra's Peak, there isn't really much opportunity to get rid of it when it is in your hand. But yeah, that's my little explanation of why I'm running 2 and the benefits of the Phoenix Cluster Amaryllis in the deck. Moving on, we've got Tree Fender. It's not Tree Defender, bit weird one there. Orc, which is quite a nice card. Basically, I'm not really going over effects because I'll let you guys read them. I feel it just makes the whole profile a little long-winded and unnecessary. But yeah, so I run 3. I mean, it's pretty bog standard, you know, you want to run 3 of each at the minute anyway, because obviously there isn't a big selection and the whole deck is revolved around throwing them from the top of the deck. So the more you've got in your deck, the more likely you're going to draw into, well, I should say reveal one. Moving on, you've got Narcissus, which is probably one of my favourites out of the first sort of wave of Shinras we've got. He's really nice in terms of setting up the next play, or even setting up for the Shinra's Peak at the end of the opponent's next turn. So sort of preparing for that next move before it's even happened. It's why I like Shinras so much. I feel that they're so just clever in how they play, and they require a lot more skill, and I'm a bit annoyed when I see people refer to them as like the plant version of the Lights one. Not because because I can see why people would think that, but I feel these have got a lot more depth to them and they're a lot more clever to play. But that's just my opinion. I mean, you guys can disagree if you like, but that's just how the world is. Moving on, we've got Leaf Flow, which is probably one of the ones you're really going to be running 3 of for the advantage of revealing it, because if you do, you get to destroy a monster on your opponent's side of the field. And that's really nice in terms of, like I was talking about, Shinra's Peak setup at the end of their turn, because you can go, right, I'm going to use Narcissus as an effect to set up a Leaf Flow ready for their end phase when they've probably built up a monster, and then at that point they've got to think, do I want to commit to a play now knowing that I'm going to lose that monster at the end of the turn, or do I play a bit more sort of off tilter and not play a monster and sacrifice my turn to do that? Which is why I really like these. They play a lot of mind games by just playing simple little things like that one effect, and having a field spell means that they're going to be a little off their game. And that's why I didn't realise how good Shinra's Peak until I played them extensively. Because my critique of them in the original analysis, that archetype discussion I had, was when I'd played a few games, I hadn't properly understood them, I hadn't come up with a deck what really takes advantage of them. Whereas I feel this does do it a lot better. Moving on, one lone fire, pretty obvious, you're running plants, you're going to be wanting to run that lone fire, as well as so many opportunities to bring it back from the grave with effects like Miracle Fertilizer, and it's just a nice way of getting that Regia straight out, turn 1 potentially, depending obviously if you draw him or not, but it's really nice, as well as it syncs quite nicely with Peacekeeper, which I'll go over a bit later on. Also Dandelion, pretty self-explanatory. This deck works off revealing the top card, and if it's a plant miller, so obviously Dandelion fits perfectly into that category, and it gives you a nice little 2 tokens which you could set up for attributing for Regia potentially, or other plays within the deck. Moving on is Stuhlwit, which while I like is effective when it's milled, I find it a really awkward card to play around when it's in my hand. I'm more likely to get rid of it for Peak or for Blessing as a cost rather than play it, because it's too slow in how the game works currently. I mean, setting just, you can't do it. It's too quick of a game at the minute to be able to do stuff like that effectively and get away with it. However, if you do, I feel it can set up your really nice advantage early on. I run one Spore mainly because it allows me to go for a few little synchros potentially, making Dandelion a little more favourable, as well as just being a nice card to bring back and tribute for Regia. You know, there's a lot of plays you can go from Spore. Which brings us on to our last monster, which is Peacekeeper, which I went over a little before. But basically, when it's milled, well, I should say when it's revealed and then sent to the graveyard, you can target one level 4 and bring it back. So that's why I like it, because it can really combo well with Lone Fire. You could get multiple Lone Fire effects off in one turn because of how it works. Or you could even use its effect on another Peacekeeper, which I like to do a lot, to combo off into a Shiny Magician, which is just a nice first turn blocker. It's almost like the Zen mains of this deck, really. Even though Zen mains is a card here, Leaf Blow is your only option unless you're playing it alongside a Spore, which you've removed a Stuhlwit. Oh, and I should say there's also Dandelion. But I'm not likely to want to do it off a Lone Fire, to be honest, but it'd have to be a really interesting situation to call for that. Moving on to spells, we run one Dark Hole, pretty self-explanatory. Arching's Oath, now this is a really nice card. It gave me the draw power I wanted, really. After sort of doing a bit of thinking about how to do the deck the best, in my opinion, I thought, oh, maybe Fragrance Storm would do the job, and alongside an Ivy Shackles to really get advantage of that. But then as more I played it, the more I realised that these two aren't nearly consistent as enough as Oath is. Because what you can do with Oath is, you can play it 2 ways. You can go, well, I know what the top card is, I'll purposely say the wrong card so I can get that effect. Or you can, because the best thing about it is it reveals just like Shinra's does before it's sent. Or you can go, whew. I mean, what I will normally do is I'll play it and then I'll automatically call either Fertilizer or Mark of Rose, depending on which one I've already played a load or have in my hand. I mean, if I've got 2 marks, I'm not likely to pick another mark. Most of the time I'll pick Miracle Fertilizer, especially turn 1, because Mark's not going to be very useful on that turn, whereas Miracle I can go, ha, now I can set up really nicely for another play. But that's the reason I play Archfiend's Oath. You may decide, oh, well, that cost, it's not the most healthy thing, but I feel it really works nice in this deck. Moving on, Miracle Fertilizer, as I have sort of said before, but the reason he's there is to bring back mainly Spirit True Regia, or, you know, Tree Fender Orc, or a Lone Fire, depending on what your graveyard's like. They're your 3 main plays you're going to be wanting to try and get play into. They're like your dream chosen ones, because then you've just got the advantage of having this big monster. And if you draw into like 1 or 2 of these, especially how the deck runs, that's quite possible. Then you can go, ha! So you've got a really overpowered setup, because you can then bring them both out, or, you know, 2 Regias, and then go, ha, I'm now going XZ, and then I can use their effects again next turn. You know, that's how interesting the deck runs, because they're not technically removed from the field. They're still in a being overlaid on an XYZ means they're still on the field, even though they're kind of not on the field. It's a really weird thing, that is. And then moving on, Mark of Rose, really nice card. I like it so much in this deck, mainly because you'll end up with these monsters in your graveyard, which you're not really going to want once they're there with the very I mean, they're really going to not want to be back in your deck from the effect of all, really, in most circumstances. Obviously it depends on what you're against, but in most circumstances they're not going to be chosen to be put back in again, which is why it's a really nice, interesting card for the deck. But like I say, it's also player preference, so you might decide it's too slow for my liking, or I would like to try and make the deck quicker. In which case, you know, there's other suggestions, which is the side which we'll be going over later. Moving on, Shinra's Peak, I really think this is a clever field spell card. I was really negative on it early on, but then I realised the potential it has in terms of how overpowered that second effect is on their end phase. I realised that is really their main effect. Having this mindset that, you know, the real effect is on your turn, from obvious previous field spells, you know, I was in that mindset. And what I like about Shinra's a lot is that it gives me an excuse to be able to get Cluster in the grave if it's in my hand. Running only 2 means it's unlikely that I'm going to draw both and have a really cloggy hand as well, which is nice. Moving on to traps, we've only got 4. 1 6th Sense, basically it's broken, why not use it? Basically you should use it in every deck. And then 3 Shinra's Blessing, this is an interesting card really. I have found it's weird really, because I'm on the fence on it, because I thought, you know, do I want to take it out and quicken it up by putting, say, upstarts or terraformings, but in the end I realised how beneficial that, not only bringing it out, but then the effect of it's unaffected by other effects this turn means that it's so good, and that return at the end of the turn, I should say, allows you to really set up once again, like I said they like to do, play mind games. So moving on to the extra deck, we've got a few synchros, mainly because of Spore. Just to give you a few options, I run a Scrap Dragon, a Black Rose Dragon, and a Armadeus. They've all got their benefits against certain decks. I mean, Armadeus is good against Boojins, Black Rose is just a nuke, and Scrap Dragon is your mainstay. It's going to be played into a lot, and it allows you into a play for a XZ as well. Moving on to let's go backwards, I suppose. So rank 1s, I use Lionheart. I mean, it's unlikely that you're going to go into it, but it's possible. I mean, you run 4 level 1s. I mean, they play into each other quite a lot, Peacekeepers, but I just thought I'd do it just for the off chance. I mean, I'm probably going to change it into probably a I've been thinking of maybe going into a maybe another rank 8, maybe a what's the other puppet one? Not that one, I'm thinking of the other one. Let's have a quick search so I can tell you specifically what it is. It is, in fact, that's what I was thinking of doing, putting in the Galaxy Ice Tachyon Dragon, because I find it such a clever card to have. But yeah, that's a potential change you might want to make. I mean, that's probably one I'm likely to make. In fact, I'll do it now, because after playing it a long while, I mean, it just didn't have the potential it should have had. But Shiny's a mainstay, definitely, because of the combo I said, where you go Peacekeeper into a second Peacekeeper, get the effect of a second Peacekeeper, and then just sort of wall up into a Shiny for the turn. I mean, it's a pretty nice opening. Wind-ups then means it's a lot more viable in terms of that Spore maybe, or you know, a Leaf Flow and a Dandelion, just stuff like that. I mean, it's something what could happen, you know. It's not terribly likely, but it's something what's there in case. Cowboy, I think you should run Cowboy in everything, because there's so many situations where you'll end up, oh, he's got a little left, if only I had the Cowboy. So I play it always just to be sure. I run one Eagle Swarm Knight Beelzebub. I assume that's going to be his real name really. I think Noble Swarm, I don't know where that came from. But yeah, I think it's a really nice card. Early game, it's a really nice sort of board where I can give the Shinra the advantage. One card I want to go over, which most people have overlooked, is Downerd Magician. It's a nice card if you want to go offensive off the Shiny Magician, just to go into 27 beta. You know, it's crazy how nice it is to have that. And because you're like masking a lot, if you go into a you steal a rank 3 or lower, say you stole one of their say Zen mains, you could then go into Downerd. So I think that's a really interesting play you can go off of it. It's one they wouldn't see coming, definitely. And my final rank 4, I mean, really you won't go into them likely a lot, but just in case, you know, you got the Spore and the Narcissuses. But yeah, the cards I also run is the Silence Honours Archetype, which is should be used by, I think you'll see a lot of play, to be honest, because it's quite overpowered, to be honest, and it's definitely worth playing. 2 Shinra High Protector Arusai, I think, in fact. But yeah, I run him obviously because it's what the archetype wants, but I think 2's just right. I'm likely to only use 1 most of the time anyway. But it definitely, I'm glad to see that it's finally got the cards to go with it. And as you saw in my Photons video, if you saw that duel of it is really nice to have, without a doubt. And as I've said, the combo with the Miracles, where you bring out 2 rank 8, level 8s and go into a rank 8 to allow you to keep using their effects each turn, is really nice. Moving on, we have got one Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand. He's nice to have, definitely. He's just that card where, you know, if you're seeing that the opponent's using a lot of stuff like deep prisons and stuff, you can throw him out and just sort of stop them in that respect. And then we have a Gimmick Puppet of Strings, which it's had its uses in the past, definitely, where it's been a real helpful card to have there. As I said, Galaxy Ice Tachyon, I've only just really thrown it in just now, but it's mainly because I tested Lionheart, because I thought it'd be helpful. It really wasn't, so I would say this was the card I would replace it with, definitely. And finally, one Hieratic Sun Dragon Overlord of Heliopolis even. Really great, especially if you've got the Dandelion tokens out. Gives you a lot of stuff to throw away. And especially if you've got the Phoenixian Cluster Amaryllises in your hand you're wanting to throw away. There'll be a lot of cards where, you know, it'd be really advantageous to do that. As well as it's going to leave them really without a field again, which is really nice. So that goes over the whole deck. I hope you agree with most of the choices, and like I say, here's a few alternative choices if you're looking to play the deck a little differently. So for monsters, you could decide to go Gigaplant. I found this a little slow in how I play the deck. However, you know, some people might prefer the Gigaplant. Maybe you put in some super fighters with the Gigaplant, just change it around a little. But in my opinion, Gigaplant just not great in this deck, to be honest. But you know, some people might feel different. Cactus Bounces was an interesting one. In fact, that neither player can special summon monsters. I thought while it went against how some of the cards in the deck run, like Lonefire and Dandelion, in the right situation it can really block off the opponent in terms of coming back after you've made these plays. So that's a card you might want to consider in terms of just blocking them off. If you're looking for more monster support, also Lord Poison might be a great way to bring out that Peacekeeper or that Lonefire to set up your next turn. But I'd say that's the one I'd least say, you know, it's worth playing, definitely, out of the whole of the 15 cards I've sort of shown up. Naturi Pineapple. The main reason I stopped using Pineapple was because I like the Shiny combo. So once Shiny went to the graveyard, you know, it sort of stops it allowing it to search. As well as that, obviously you've got the Field Spell, you've got this equip, as well as loads of continuouses. For me, how I built the deck from where it was. Pineapple stopped being relevant, but you might want to play it a bit differently, in which Pineapple would be more advantageous to have. Moving on, Amaryllis. This was a really cool card I thought up, whereas it would give you a free Tree Fender Orc, if that's like you've got them in your hand and you've got no way to get rid of them, and you're wanting to get that monster play out. Because you might get clogged up with Tree Fenders or Phoenixian Cluster Amaryllises in your hand, or even a Regia, where you could just get out one tribute for a Regia and make you on top of the world. And the final card is Copper Plant. Obviously the point of this card is to copy the level of a Regia rank 8 bush. You know, you've got that quick play off the bat. I mean, Copy Plant's worth playing. The reason I don't play it is because I kind of don't have the room for it, and it's a wasted mill, if you get what I mean, in terms of every monster in here has a reason to be milled. In terms of if it's in the grave, it's not too bad, with the exception of Lone Fire, but it's a Lone Fire, you know, you're going to want to use it, you're playing plants. You'll notice, you know, the Dandelion, it gets an effect when it's sent to the grave. Spore, when it's in the graveyard, I can then use its effect, as well as the Phoenixian Cluster Amaryllises. You know, they've all got reasons to be there outside of the Shinras, which you obviously do anyway. Moving on to spells, I thought Reversal Quiz, it would be really clever to try and run that in terms of just letting them be pelted. You could play upstarts as well to help them out and get your life points, which you'll be swapping with. Even better. But I couldn't get it to sync up that well with the Phoenixians, but it's possible. I mean, maybe someone will find up a clever way of doing it. But definitely, I mean, if it weren't for the fact that it would send all cards in your hand, I mean, if it would discard one, Reversal Quiz would without a doubt be played. But it's definitely a card I would, if anyone could come up with just a win off of that, you know, I'd just love to see it, definitely. Fragrant Storm, as I've gone over before, it was a deck idea I came up with beforehand, where I thought, hey, this is the draw power I might need to quicken up the deck alongside an Ivy Shackles, but in the end I just found it too inconsistent to be playable. But hey, you might be able to find out a way of making it more consistent so that, you know, Fragrant Storm is a lot more relevant. But that's just a suggestion you might want to take into account. Upstarts and Terraforming are there for deck thinning, and especially if you're not a fan of Blessing and you think that it's slowing the deck down, you could easily substitute it for either Terraformings or Upstarts, depending on how you prefer to play the deck. Gold Sarcophagus, if you're, you know, afraid of that Lone Fire being milled and you want it straight, you know, in 2 turns, I'm going to have my Lone Fire, this is a great way of doing it. Outside of that, you've obviously got your Dark Hole, or, you know, one of your many spells you run anyway, as a choice. World Tree, this is a card you might decide to use, but I just found it's just too slow for the deck. You're going to be wanting to go for that OTK, but, you know, for some people who want to play the slow game with the deck, it might be a more preferable card. Royal Decree, if you're wanting to use the Shinras, but you don't want to, you want to just shut down their traps because you're not planning on playing any traps, you could definitely just side this in for the Shinra's Blessings if you want, and say take out that 6 cents for a Gold Sarcophagus and you're sorted. That's just a choice you might want to go with, because I've got to be honest, some decks I play with just the Royal Decree just to go, yeah, you know what, you know, I don't want to be bothered by the traps, so I'm just going to play the Decree. And with some decks you can really gain an advantage of doing that, definitely. And the final card is Polynosis, which I thought would be a card to mention because it's a counter trap. It does quite a lot in terms of for what you have to do. I mean, you have to tribute one plant, but with the plants you've got like Dandelion, the tokens from Dandelion, you know, cards like Peacekeeper, which would be worthless once summoned, obviously, as well as Spore and such. You know, sometimes where you would get a real advantage off that Polynosis, and I think it's definitely worth mentioning. But yeah, it comes to a close on terms of the deck profile. I hope you've liked it. I put a lot of effort into the Shinras, more so than the other deck profiles. I don't know if you've noticed. If you prefer this way of me doing it without sort of over explaining all the cards' effects, and sort of just going over why they're there and leaving the descriptions over there for a shorter period of time so you can read up on them. Feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'll prefer to do it that way. Other than that, like if you'd like to have Shinras, if you want to see more in the future of Shinras when they get more support or whatever, let me know in the comments, and like up the vid. Other than that, thanks for watching everyone, goodbye.